news has arrived.
Hostiles. Repeat, we have hostiles. Mayday, mayday.
Oh my God, there's hundreds of them.
On October 10th,
we came here from the digital world.
the war for our world begins.
What in God's name is that?
In IMAX.
This is the end to this world.
No, it's not. But I can help you.
Tron Ares, rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13. Only in theaters October 10th. Get tickets now.
Once upon a mundane morning, Barb's day got busy without warning. A realtor in need of an open house sign. No, 50 of them, and designed before 9.
My head hurts.
Any mighty tools to help with his plight? Aha! Barb made her move. She opened Canva and got in the groove.
Bulk creating Canva sheets. Create 50 signs fit for suburban streets.
Done in a click, all complete.
Sweet!
Now, imagine what your dreams can become when you put imagination to work at Canva.com.
This October, the Wrong Station celebrates a decade of dread. You can read the show notes to discover terrible new ways to celebrate with us. Today's episode, Tongue, is written by Jacob Duarte Spiel and performed by Anthony Botelho. When he was a child, Cleo had heard the story straight from the source. Paolo, an old man in his hometown, with long, dragging scars up his right arm, all the way to the shoulder. The story went like this. Many years prior, back when the town was merely a village, a jaguar had been spotted, stalking through the jungle just beyond the outer limits of the furthest farms. Not long after that, a child disappeared. He had been 7, or perhaps 8. This detail escaped the old man, but fear and anger still crept into his voice as if the death had happened just days ago. His eyes, clouded with age, seemed to see the life the child had been robbed of. The local government was of no use at the time, so the village decided that children would be under armed guard until the jaguar was dealt with. The old man had been in his 20s then, and in good health, a perfect candidate. At first, Paolo had agreed simply to make some money. There weren't many jobs in that part of the country, and he figured the jaguar was probably long gone by now. He was handed an old, rusted gun and a small group of children to watch over while their parents were working. The pay was steady. He planned to save as much as he could, and then leave for greener pastures after everyone forgot about the jaguar. And that was almost exactly what happened. Until, one day, while walking the children home along the forest's edge, he actually saw it. It was hiding in the trees, hungry eyes glinting in the sunset light. His first instinct was to run. This was just a job, after all. But then he looked down at the children. They were oblivious to the danger, walking and laughing and playing. He swallowed his fear. Paolo spoke to the children as if nothing was wrong, not wanting the jaguar to know it had been noticed. If it knew, it might attack. In a sing-songy voice, he told the children to walk ahead of him, to stay in front. Slowly, he slid the gun off his shoulder. He counted out 5 more steps, and then turned. He brought the old gun up under his chin, lining the sights on the jaguar in the tree. He pulled the trigger twice. Click, click. Nothing. The jaguar seemed to flow down the tree trunk, fluid and strong, like a waterfall. With bravery that surprised even himself, Paolo put himself between the children and it. For a moment, they stared at each other, the jaguar deciding if the meal was worth it. Then it sprinted directly at the man. Paolo fell backward, the jaguar on top of him, snarling as it forced him to the ground. Claws dug into his bicep, his thigh. All he could think was that if he died here, the children would be next. He couldn't fight for long. The jaguar was too heavy, too strong. He had one hand on its neck and the other on its snout. He couldn't keep the fangs away from his throat or the claws from his belly. The jaguar's jaws were opening, gaping. He could see the blackness at the bottom of its throat. Then he knew what to do. It was the worst thought imaginable. His mind screamed at him to stop. But there was another part of him, a part he'd never known was there. And that part knew this was the only way. Paolo put his entire fist in the jaguar's mouth. The jaguar's eyes widened. It bit down, and Paolo let it. But Paolo didn't stop. He slid his fist all the way to the back of the jaguar's mouth, and then down his throat, feeling the teeth slice long, thin ribbons into his arm. He kept pushing until his arm was up to his elbow. The jaguar started to panic now, started to choke. Then he pushed down to his shoulder, and once his arm was as deep into the jaguar as it could go, Paolo felt something. Some deep, visceral thing inside the jaguar, like a lever. He grabbed hold of it and pulled as hard as he could. The jaguar shuddered, eyes rolling with shock and pain until they found Paolo. They stared at each other for a moment, and then the beast fell to the ground, dead. The children helped yank Paolo's arm out from the jaguar and carried him to the village. Cleo loved this story. When the old man told it, he would make his left hand into a vicious claw, representing the jaguar's mouth. Then he would punch his right fist into the claw before plunging his whole right arm through the left. Each time he did this, Cleo could see the jaguar's fangs dragging along the old man's arm, leaving behind deep, bloody cuts that would one day become the scars he saw now. And, of course, Paolo had been badly clawed around his belly. But Paolo didn't like to show those scars these days. He'd gained weight and was vainer than he'd like to admit. Cleo grew up and left his hometown. He moved far away, to a place where it snowed in winter, and where all tropical fruits were imported and all tasted a little funny. There were no jaguars here. One day, Cleo was walking to work. He was a dishwasher at a nice restaurant, and his morning route took him past a public school. There were police and military vans parked outside. At first, Cleo worried it was a shooting. These things happened sometimes. And Cleo was the only person on the street, so he crossed to watch and see if maybe he could help in some way. The front doors slammed open, and a child ran down the front steps, through the gate, and directly towards Cleo. The child was so terrified he could barely speak. All he could do was cower behind this man he didn't know. The school doors opened again. A man in a tactical vest, sunglasses, and a mask came running out. He had a gun at his hip. He pointed his finger at Cleo and started shouting orders that were muffled by his mask. Cleo still struggled with the language of his new home, but the situation was plain enough to understand. The man wanted the child. At first, Cleo was scared. Then he looked beside him and saw the huddled figure, shaking with fear. The man in the vest pulled down his mask and ordered Cleo to step away and put his hands on the wall. Cleo didn't move. The man grabbed Cleo by the throat and tried to push him over. The child screamed. With his other hand, the man clawed for the child. Cleo tried to stop him, but the man had hooked his fingers through the child's shirt collar. The screams turned to choking gasps. So, Cleo did the first thing that came to mind. When the man turned and opened his mouth to call to the other agents, Cleo pushed his hand into his mouth. The man bit down in shock, and Cleo felt his teeth cut into his wrist, his arm, opening up long, dragging wounds as he pushed his hand to the back of his throat. Cleo forced his fist down further, feeling the man shudder as Cleo plunged his hand all the way to his shoulder until he grabbed onto that deep, visceral thing. And then Cleo pulled. The Wrong Station is made possible with the generous support of our listeners on Patreon. Join us today at patreon.com/thewrongstation for bonus episodes, behind-the-scenes content, ad-free listening, and additional goodies celebrating our decade of dread. The Wrong Station is co-produced by Alexander Saxton, Anthony Botelho, and Jacob Duarte Spiel, with music composed and performed by Alon Citrin, and arranged for the viola and performed by Viola Schmidt. You can follow us on social media at The Wrong Station, or email us at thewrongstation@gmail.com. And until next time, thank you for listening.